Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to Player Focus, where we are going to be looking into the reaction to the signing of Vitaliy Mykolenko, the new Ukrainian left-back who we've brought in from Dynamo Kiev. Came in on New Year's Day, it was announced. Myself and Paul are going to look into this signing. Paul, what's your take on bringing in Mykolenko? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of it's been overshadowed by the fact that it means that potentially Luka Dean might go, but in terms of Mykolenko, how much do you know about him as a player?
Not a lot, but it is interesting the fact that he's a good age, because even if he turns out not to be a world beater or even of the level that we expect as Evertonians our players to be, there's still a good chance that we could get some money back on him purely because of his age. He's an established international, isn't he? Which is a good thing. So there'll be clubs around Europe who are aware of him. Apparently, there were other clubs that were interested in him as well, and have scouted him before us. I've heard United and Liverpool at one point were looking at him. So was Bayern Munich. Now, God knows why they didn't make the jump on him. Maybe they decided he wasn't good enough. Maybe they had other targets they preferred. Maybe we've got in there first. You don't know. But the fact that he's so young is a good thing. If he was 25, 26, then I would be thinking, I'm really not sure about this. Coming from a league like Ukraine, and it's taken him this long to step up, then I wouldn't be sure. But the fact that he's only 22, and the fact that he's played quite a few games in his career, I think he's got, about 150 senior games under his belt, just at club level. He broke into the Dynamo Kiev team very early. I think when he was 17, 18. So even though he's still very young, you'd consider he's quite seasoned. So it's probably perfect time for him to go and make the step up to a better league, which is exactly what he's done. So we're probably getting him at the right time, but we've got to put our eyes on him first before we know whether he's going to be able to cut it, whether he's a good enough replacement for Luka Dean, or if he's just even good enough to be in the Everton team full stop. But yeah, I'm reasonably happy with it. I don't really care about the money side of it, really, because that's not my concern how much money we spend. But he's established international, as I talked about. He went to the Euros with Ukraine, and that was quite a good tournament for Ukraine. They got through the knockout rounds, didn't they? I know they got humbled by England in that 6-0, whatever it was, where Kane scored an hat-trick, I think. Mykolenko played it. Was it 4? Yeah. I know we battered them. Mykolenko played in that game, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, but Ukraine's players were dead on the feet in that game. They were always going to get tonked by a team that was fresh as a daisy like England were. So you can't really put any blame on Mykolenko or any of the Ukrainian defence for the way they got battered by England in that Euro game in the summer. But yeah, as I said, he's a very young player who's got experience and sounds like he's hungry, because it would have been very easy for him to just stay in his own country, in his comfort zone for another 2 or 3 years and got a move when he was 25, 26. But looks like he's decided, no, I'm ready to step up now, which is good.
It's about time we started making signings of, like you say, that sort of 22, 23 age bracket. I think that, like you say, if it doesn't work out, you do get a bit of a resale value. I think that's like crucial to the way we should be operating as a club.
It's a sale that sounds like it's got a plan in mind, which so often isn't the case with us. It sounds like we've bought him and we've already got a plan of if things go right, of who we're eventually going to sell him to. Because as I said, Man United and Liverpool and Bayern were looking at him. Our plan, by the looks of it, looks like, right, we'll get him in here for 2, 3, 4 years, however long it is. And if he develops the way we think he's going to develop and he becomes a really good player, we can then sell him on for a profit to one of these clubs that were looking at him and decided not to take the chance on him. At this point, when we did, we can sell him to the likes of United or a Bayern, because they've looked at him before. They were clearly interested, and maybe the fact his age ended up counting against them. Maybe they didn't want to jump in with him so early. But if he comes here and does a really good job for us, then all those clubs who looked at him once before will surely come back and look at him again. And they'll be willing to spend the money on him because they know he can cut it in this league. If that's the ideal scenario, isn't it? So a lot of the times we just sign players. A lot of times we just sign players and hope for the best, don't we? Because like the likes of a Wobie, the likes of your Gomez's, where if it doesn't work out, then we're just basically stuck with them forever because no one will ever want to come in and take them off us.
I think that's it. Like it's obvious that that's the blueprint that we should have always been following, and I don't know why it took us this long to make signings like this.
It's just not had competent people at the club running the transfers. We had Steve Walsh at one point who just seemed like he pulled names out of a hat, didn't he? Players he signed. Then we had Brands, who we've discussed him before. We don't know how much influence he did or didn't have, but we know for a fact Mashiri and Bill Kenwright and certain agents who are friends of them have got influence at the club, and it's not in their interest, is it, to develop young players and then sell them on for a big profit to help the club. It's in their interest just to get their cut, isn't it?
Indeed.
And you can't help and you also can't help the fact that people who are just grossly unqualified are making certain decisions, like the likes of Mashiri.
Yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction in terms of, you mentioned there potentially selling Luca Dean, which is obviously not good for us, and because he's been a good servant. But is the time right for Luca Dean to move on anyway, with the fact that he is 28? He'll be 29 by the end of this year.
It would be. I wouldn't have a problem with him going if we were going to get a big fat profit on the back of it. But how much did we sign him for? 28 million, something like that?
No, 19, 20, I think. It was a really good deal for him.
I think it was over 20, but it wasn't 30. I'll find that out now as we're talking. But we're not going to get 40, 50 million for Luca Dean, because he's not necessarily good enough to get us that money, but because Benitez is going about it the complete wrong way. He's frozen him out and made it abundantly clear to everybody who's looking on the outside that we don't want him and we're desperate to get shot of him. It's not what you do when you want to make a profit off a player. So we're probably going to sell him now for a cut price deal just to get him out the door to appease fat man's ego. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we end up taking a significant loss on Luca Dean when we should be looking to make a profit on him. Even supporters who think he's overrated, even they would agree that if we sold him, we should at least be getting our money back. Which we're not, because he's still a player banging. He's still a French international. He's still banging his prime. He's not got a bad injury record, has he? And before this, he didn't have any. There was no questions about his attitude. So we should be getting 20+ million for him still, 30+ probably for him. But we're definitely not going to get that now, I don't think, just because Fat Man's held him out to dry in front of the entire world and made it absolutely clear that he doesn't want him for off the pitch reasons.
That's when obviously, like, if we did sell him for a really good profit and then brought him, Mykolenko and then a new right back and another position, maybe even, you'd say very good business. Or, like you say, it could be that Rafa Benitez has ruined that by putting his ego first, probably, in terms of the Luca Dean debacle.
Yeah, but even then, Luca Dean shouldn't have been one of the first players out the club that you're looking to make a profit on. Should have been one of the last players, because he's still crucial to how we play when we're good. There's players we could have been looking to sell who we could have made a profit on, you'd think, and we'd miss them less. Now, I absolutely love Richarlison, but I think losing Richarlison would be less of a blow to how we play as a team, as a unit, than it would be if we lost Luca Dean. I don't want to sell Richarlison at all, but if you said to me which signing do you think would hurt the team the most if we signed them and then didn't replace them with anyone good, I'd say probably Luca Dean, because Richarlison is plays off the. Some people say he's a centre forward, some people say he's better off the wing, but there's a lot of those duels that you can pick up around Europe. Players who are forwards who just need to play at the right manager in the right environment, and whilst they might have looked average or slightly above average before, they can just take off, can't they? That was what Richarlison was when he was at Watford. He was probably a slight above average player who had a lot of potential, and we got him in, and we've seen him develop, and he's become an absolute world-class player, in my opinion. We'll have an easier time finding another one of them than we would finding another left back who can make the contribution that Luca Dean does.
I mean, you never know. I think for me, Luca Dean, obviously, it hasn't worked out for him under Benitez. Like, even when he was playing, it wasn't suiting him.
We signed him for 18 million, rising to 20, apparently, but that was pounds, though, so I don't know what that is in euros. I can't see us getting more than 25 million euros for Luca Dean off any club. We should be doing. I think he's good enough to merit that a higher fee than that, but we're not going to get that considering what the way Benitez has treated him. The way Benitez has just basically held him up in front of the entire world and said, "This is a player who's got attitude problems. Someone take him off me, please."
Yeah, what do you think about it? It's ridiculous transfer policy, isn't it? But again, we're not like any strangers to that as a club, it seems.
Well, we're no strangers to it, but we didn't have a manager before this who just hounded out a player purely because he was putting his ego before the betterment of the team. With
that in mind, like it's it's annoying because it spoils what I think in terms of Mykolenko is good business. I think that is decent business that was done there. I think the price is it's supposed to be about, I think it's about 17 million, is it?
Yeah. The last example I can think of a player we had who fell out with the manager and ended up having his Everton stay end on a bad note and maybe going a bit before his time was it Distan with Martinez. Yeah, I don't think
Distan was like 36.
Koeman tried his damnness to get rid of Niasse and couldn't, could he? But Marco Silva, I don't remember him falling out with anyone specifically and then making sure that player was sold. But
No.
I remember Distan fell out with
Martinez.
But the difference was Silva and Distan, he probably had another couple of months in him. He was on the way down as a player, and he was 35, 36 at the time. Look at him still banging the prime of his career. So what are we forcing him out for now? Like I said, I would not have a problem with it half as much if we were selling him and it was for a massive profit. And you think there's so much we can do with that long term. It's worth taking a bit of short term pain because the long term we can really build something good off the back of this. We're going to get a fee that is probably going to be able to buy us one extra player. And I don't trust Benitez to spend that fee, whatever it is, whether it's 15 million, 20 million pounds, euros, whatever. I don't trust him to come in and buy someone who's going to overall make the team better. Maybe this Mykolenko fella is going to be an absolute whale beater, but does anyone seriously expecting that?
I mean, I don't expect him to be a whale beater. I reckon he'll be a player who maybe if he sticks around next year might be good, but I just don't see how Benitez gets the best out of any player.
Yeah, same. So it's just a thing that managers, if you've got to pick your battles. If you're going to fall out with players and decide, I'm not having him around this place anymore, I need to get rid of him sharpish and make sure that everyone toes the line. You don't do it with someone who's still in the peak of his career, who the team's a lot worse off for missing. If you're going to do it with a young player who's not really proven anything yet. No one will care if he goes. Or do it with an old player who is at his time and hasn't really got much to offer anymore. Don't do it with someone bang in the middle of the career who still got loads to offer, just because he's had the nerve to say it to your face that your tactics are not working. And it's not like your tactics are working and you're thinking, who's this guy telling me to change the way I'm approaching games? I think if you're winning one game in 12 or one game in 10, like it was when he fell out with him a few weeks ago, I think people have got the full right to stand up to you and tell you that you need to look at yourself rather than blaming them all the while.
It's one of those. But in terms of like Mykolenko, what do you think we can expect from him? He's quite a big fullback, isn't he? In terms of profile, he's quite tall.
I looked at him when he was unveiled at the weekends, and he reminds me in build a lot of John Stones, but he was quite lanky, and you think, right, he's going to have to fill out him. So it wouldn't shock me if we don't see much of him between now and the end of the season. I mean, if we sell Dean, then he's going to have to play, isn't he? But it wouldn't shock me if he's still not our first choice left back until next season. Whether for the second half of this season, we just see him mostly on the bench, even if Dean goes, because I think he's going to need time to beef up and get used to the speed of the game, and obviously get used to the weather and get used to the lifestyle and get used to his teammates. And I don't know, he did his interview in Ukrainian, didn't he, with subtitles, so I can't imagine he speaks a good deal of English. He's going to have to learn that, isn't he, to communicate, because communication's key when you're a defender. I don't know anyone else at the club who speaks Ukrainian who can translate for him, who's on the pitch. Do you know if any of our players can speak Ukrainian?
Don't think so.
Don't think so. Volby doesn't look like he can speak Ukrainian, does he? Neither does Michael Holgate or Michael Keane. Michael Keane could probably barely speak English half the time.
That's what I mean. Our defence aren't very well seasoned in communication.
Our defence is disorganised and all over the place as it is. The last thing you need is throwing in a youngster who can't speak the language in there with them. So I think this lad's going to be protected for the first few months, and he's going to need to do certain things to make sure that he's giving himself the best chance of succeeding when he does eventually get his run in the team, such as beefing up, such as learning how to speak English to a good level. Maybe he can, and we just haven't seen it yet, but I'm only basing that off the fact that he's unveiling he didn't speak English in his interview, and he's obviously never played anywhere outside Ukraine, so we just don't know. But I want to see the lads, but I want to see the lads at a sensible time and a sensible place. I don't want to put him in high pressure games. I wouldn't play him against Hull. I know a lot of people are expecting him to play against Hull in the FA Cup, but I definitely wouldn't, because that game's got nasty disaster written all over it. If we go out in that game, it's going to be so nasty in the away end, and I don't want the lad subjected to that. I don't want him kind of in the middle of all the chaos. I'd rather the lad just be protected and sitting in the stands away from it all.
Absolutely, I think I'm glad for his sake he wasn't able to play in the Brighton game.
Yeah, goodness knows what was going through his head when he was sat in the stand watching. He was probably thinking, "What have I signed up for here? Left my own town club." Like, I hope he's on a decent wage, because to put up with some of the stuff, if he's going to be expected to put up with the stuff we're watching, then he's going to have to be paid a lot of money.
I think this is what hurts us most as a club, is that the club is such a circus that it must be off-putting for young players to want to come here. So it's
it will be. It will be. I mean, their agents will try and get them here if they're promised a big enough cut of the deal and they're going to get a high wage. Their agents will try and tell them that we're going to be the next AC Milan from the 90s. Do you know what I mean? But players are people. At the end of the day, they've got family. They'll have a mum and a dad and friends and family back in Ukraine who are probably looking at Everton thinking, "Oh my God, I hope our boy's all right going over there." It sounds like an absolute cesspit the way it's going on. It seems like the fans are causing near enough riots every time they lose, which is what it feels like to us. It feels like the ground's on the verge of mutinying and storming the pitch, because that's how angry everyone is. You've got to think that they'll be speaking to him back in Ukraine, thinking, "You just keep your head down and stay out of all that, son, because none of that's your fault and you don't want to get caught in the crossfire."
well, definitely. But I think it's sad. What I mean, like, what I meant by that, I didn't necessarily mean the fans and the atmosphere. I mean
no, but just this. It's so toxic, isn't it? It's such a bad feeling around the place that you don't want it. You don't want a new player, especially a young new player, coming into that and having it rub off on them when none of it's their fault, because they haven't been here beforehand. So it's not like they've caused. It's not like they've caused any trouble.
No, and what I meant by that though is that, like, it's also about our recruitment process and it doesn't screen to a young player who's about 20, 21 now.
Come and hitch your wagon to this, yeah.
Yeah, basically, like, we're not going to get the pick of the 20, 21-year-olds all want to go to a Leicester or a Brighton instead, because there's a better track record of development there.
Yeah, and just a nicer environment, as touched upon. So even when things lose, like, seems like everyone's together and everyone's not pointing fingers and everyone's taking collective responsibility, which is the opposite of what's happening here. It just feels like everyone's fighting amongst themselves and there's just fires all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I don't want to sound this too depressing. I'm really hoping that this lad then comes in and smashes it, and if we sell Luca Dean, we end up not caring because this lad's just as good, if not better. All we can do is hope, isn't we? It's always a difficult one to judge when they're coming from a league like Ukraine, because there's some players who come from these lesser leagues like Holland and Portugal and Ukraine and other places, and some of them smash it, like the likes of Bruno Fernandes. And for every one of them, though, you'll get someone like Klasan, do you know what I mean? Or Per Kroll's up, just players who come in and they just look hopelessly out the depth, and you just give up. You've got to give up on them quite quick. I'm hoping that's not the case for this lad, and the fact that he's played, he's an international footballer, an established international footballer at the age he is, and he's played in big tournaments. I think he played 4 of Ukraine's 5 games at the Euros, and the fact that he's played in the Champions League as well against some big teams, and looks like he's held his own, because Dynamo Kiev haven't been on the end of any thumpings in Europe recently. You'd hope that he's a player who's got a lot about him and he's got a good head on his shoulders and he's quick to learn, which is the type of player we need.
Definitely, I just hope that, like you say, I think he beds himself in quite well and, like, doesn't have to put up with nonsense, like you say.
It can be very easy for youngsters to just end up coming into a new environment and just losing the way and their head going very quick. It happened to Adam Ola-Luchman, didn't it? I would argue it happened somewhat to Sandro. I know Sandro ended up not being a very good footballer, but I think Sandro was better than what he showed us at the time he was here. I just think he was in the wrong team, wrong country, just wrong manager, wrong environment. Just everything was wrong with Sandro, and it seemed like everyone just gave up on him after 5 minutes, didn't it? And I don't want like that scenario happening to this lad or to any other youngster who comes into the team. Same with that right back up in Scotland, who it looks like we're going to be signing in the next few days as well.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that one as well, of course. But for now, obviously, Mykolenko, I think it's just a case of seeing him hopefully we'll get to see him make his debut at some stage in the not too distant future, and fingers crossed for him. It's one of those.
I will say this. I do hope he grows his hair out a bit and gets a bit of a better barnet than what he's got, because it looks a bit like default setting. Do you know when you're creating your own character on like football on FIFA when you're creating your manager?
Oh, there you go. Well,
I mean, it's a bit basic as a haircut. I would like him to grow it out and look like a proper Scouser a bit.
Yeah, there we go then.
Just some speak to Leighton about it. Leighton will give you all the tips you need on how having to being a stylish left back.
Yeah, there you go. Sort them out. Needs to get that number changed to number 3 next season as well.
He's number 19. Number 19 isn't he? Which is not a number that I imagine anyone really grows up dreaming that they're going to wear. And we do need a number 3 because we haven't had one since Baines has left. I'm surprised Dean's never took it, but I do want to see us. I'm an old-fashioned. I like all the good players having numbers 1 to 11. In that way, yeah. I know some people aren't bothered about numbers, but I am. I want all our best players to be 1 to 11, and I'm hoping he proves himself to be a quality left back and he gets number 3.
I'm definitely one of them as well. You've got to get that right. But anyway, guys, we'll wrap it up there. Vitaliy Mykolenko, new Everton sign, and let us know your opinions on the deal. Is it a good deal? What does it mean for Luca Dean and whatnot? Let us know your opinions. Drop us a comment.
If you've watched a lot of them over the last few years, then please give us some of your assessments of them in the comments. Yeah, let us know. Tell us what we should look out for, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, how you think he'll fit into this Everton team, and what his personality is like. If anyone knows anything about that, what type is he? A talker? Is he quiet? Is he a player who's got future captain on him written all over him? Let us know, because admittedly we haven't watched a lot of them over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to
get some more information, from people who are more in the know and up to date with Ukrainian football and European football than we are.
I guess we've got some Ukrainian supporters involved as well. If we could see what they have to say.
No, they're probably supporting West Ham because of Yarmolenko, aren't they? But I don't blame them, considering the great run West Ham are having.
Exactly, yeah. But anyway, guys, let us know your opinions on Mykolenko. Drop us a comment. Give this video a like, subscribe for more content. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching on the Toffee Blues.